Good afternoon, everyone. My name is T. Mamata. I am working as an assistant professor in ADS department. I'm from St. Martin's Engineering College. Today, my topic is ER model in database management system. ER model is nothing but the entity relationship model in the database management system. Before going to know that the database management system, we need to know what is an entity, what are the attributes, and what is the relationship sets. We have different types in entity relationship model: entities, domains, attributes, relationship sets. These all are comes under the entity relationship model. First, entity relationship model is the pictorial representation of a database which is having the entity sets and the relationship sets. Before going to know about the entity sets, we need to know what is an entity. Entity is nothing but the real-time object. For example, pen or laptop or mobile, everything comes under the entity. We have two different types in the entities. First one is the tangible entity and second one is the intangible entity. Tangible entity is nothing but which is exist physically. For example, a person, a car, that is comes under the tangible entity. The next one is the intangible entity. Intangible entity that exists logically. For example, if we take bank is an example. The account number and IFSC code, ATM pin, all these are comes under the logical existence. That is nothing but intangible entity. Next one is the entity set. Entity set is nothing but the group of entities having some attributes. All records are comes under the entity set, is nothing but the entity set. And the next one is the entity type. Complete entity set is representing with a name is nothing but the entity type. For example, in the college system, we will take the student information, roll number, maybe roll number, name, age, marks, mobile number. This is comes to one entity, and every student's information comes under the entity type. The information about the student shows the entity type. The next one is the attribute. Attribute is nothing but it defines the characteristics and physical existence that describes the entity, is nothing but the attribute. We have different types of attributes. Those are the composite attribute, multi-valued attributes, simple or atomic attributes, single valued attributes, and derived attributes. And last one is the key attribute. Comes under the composite attribute, which composite attribute is nothing but the which can be divided into further to form an independent attribute values. For example, if we take the student name is comes under the composite attributes because that can be divided into further, like first name, middle name, and last name. These all are comes under the composite attributes. For example, if we take the address also have we can divide it into further, like house number, street. These all are comes under the composite attributes. The next one is the single or single valued attribute. Single valued, which is having the single valued, is comes under the single valued attribute. For example, age is a single number that cannot be divided further. And one more roll number also, maybe if for example we will take the student entity, comes to the attribute, it is the roll number. Roll number is also single valued attribute that cannot be divided into further. And simple or atomic attribute, that also cannot be divided into further. For example, in the student table, we will take the roll number that cannot be divided into further. And age, email ID, these all are cannot be divided into further. And coming to the key attribute is nothing but it is used to define the attribute uniquely. That is comes under the key attribute. The next one is the multi-valued attribute, which is having the multiple values, is comes under the multi-valued attribute. For example, mobile number and mail ID, a course. One person can have more than one email mobile numbers, and one person can have more than one mail IDs. And courses, skill set, one person can have more than one skills knowledge, subject knowledge. These all are comes under the multi-valued attributes. The next one is the derived attributes. Derived attribute is nothing but the which can be derived from another attribute. For example, if we take the percentage can be derived from the marks, and if we take the age can be derived from the database date of birth. These all are the attributes. Next, we will see the different types of notations to represent the entity relationship diagram. We have two different types of entity sets. First one is the strong entity, and the second one is the weak entity. Strong entity is nothing but which is having the key attribute is nothing but the strong entity, and weak entity comes under weak entity. Weak entity depends upon the strong entity to identify the records or to identify the attributes. Here we will represent the strong entity by using the rectangular boxes. Strong entity we will define by using the rectangular boxes. This is the rectangular box used to define the strong entity, and the weak entity is represented by double rectangular box. Weak entity is represented in a double rectangular box. Next, we have different types of attributes to define the entity relationship model. The first one is the composite attribute. First one is the composite attribute. Composite attribute that can be divided into further. The notation for the composite attribute is nothing but if we take the name as a example, that can be divided into further, maybe first name, another one is maybe last name, that can be which can be divided into further. This is we will define in the different notations by using the different notations. Derived attributes maybe derived attributes are defined by using the dotted lines, because this is derived from the another attribute. If for example, if we take the age, it is derived from the date of birth. So this is what we will define by using the dotted lines ellipse. The next one is the multi-valued attributes. Multi-valued attributes are defined by using the multi-valued attributes are defined by using the double ellipse. And the next one is the key attribute. The most important thing is the key attribute. Key attribute is defined by using the ellipse with underline, because this is uniquely identified by the database user. So if for example, if we take the roll number or employee ID, one person can have only one roll number in the colleges. They don't have multiple roll numbers. If for example, if we take the employee ID, one employee can have only one employee ID. No, one person cannot have two IDs. This is comes under the roll number. The next one is the simple or single valued. Single or simple valued attribute is represented by using the single ellipse. These all are the different types of attributes we are using in the entity relationship diagram. The next one is the relationship set. Relationship set. Relationship set is used to define the relation between the two entities. Relationship set is used to define the relationship between the two entities. For example, if we for example in the relationship sets we have four different types. First one is the unary relationship, and the second one is the binary relationship, and third one is the ternary relationship, and the fourth one is the quaternary relationship. These are the degree of the relationship sets. Coming to the relationship, next we have different types of relationship sets. Relationship set is used to define the relation between the two entities. Relationship is used to describe the relationship between the two entities. We will define the relationship by using the diamond shape. Here, for example, teacher teaches the course to the students, or teacher teaches the subject to the students. We have different types of degree of the relationship sets. The first one is the unary relationship set. Unary relationship set is nothing but one entity is participating in the relation. If for example, if we take the person married to a single person, this is comes under the unary relationship sets. The next one is the binary relationship. Binary relationship, in the binary relationship, two entity sets are participating in a relationship. For example, we take the student can enroll in multiple courses or two courses. This is comes under the binary relationship sets. The next one is the ternary relationship. Ternary relationship is means three entities are participating in the relationship. For example, if we take the entity, one entity is teacher and other one is the subject and other one is the student. Here the teacher teaches the subject to the students. This is the, here the relationship is the teacher teaches the subject to the students. The next one is the quaternary relationship. Here four entities are present in the quaternary relationship. The first one is the slides, second one is the student, and third one is the courses, and fourth one is the professor. All these are teaches the subject to the students. Professor maybe slides teaches to the course to the student. Here the four entities are present. Four entities are professor, slides, student, and course. Here the relation is teaches. The next one is the mapping constraints in the relationship. We have four different types of mapping constraints. First one is the one-to-one mapping, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many cardinalities. These are four different types of cardinalities. The first one is the one-to-one cardinality. One-to-one cardinality is nothing but the single object from one entity involves in a single object from another entity. This is nothing but the one-to-one cardinality. For example, if we take employee can have only one salary account, one in the current organization. So for example, we will take the employee having the salary account. Employee can have only one salary account. That is comes under the one-to-one cardinality. Next, one-to-many cardinality. One-to-many cardinality is nothing but the one object from one entity is involved in or relation, having the relation with multiple objects of another entity. For example, if we will take an employee can sell different items. It involves one entity is nothing but the employee. He can have multiple objects for the sales. This is comes under the one-to-many cardinality. The next one is the many-to-one cardinality. Many-to-one cardinality is nothing but the objects of one entity, different objects of one entity is participating or having the relation with only one object with another entity. For example, in the organization, many employees are present. For example, we will take the college. Different professors, assistant professors are working. They are needed to report the their works or everything to the concerned HODs or deans. This is comes under the many to one cardinality. The next one is the many to many cardinality. Many to many cardinality is applicable when multiple objects from one entity are connected with multiple objects from another entity. For example, different employees can sell the different items to the different customers, maybe one item to the different customers. This is comes under the many to many cardinality. And the next one is the conceptual design with the ER model. We have different concepts in the ER model to draw the ER diagram. The first one is we need to identify the attributes first. We need to identify the attributes, then we need to find the relationships, and the next one is we need to draw the rough ERD, fill in cardinality. The next one is the we need to define the primary keys first. To define the particular information or to get the particular information from the student, maybe employee, they have one primary key or they have one key attribute. By using that we can get the information. So for that reason we need to define the primary keys. Next, draw key based ERD. We need to define the employee ER, entity relationship diagram. Next one is the we need to identify the attributes. So for example, different attributes. So for example, if the student have student number, name, ID, age, something, these all are comes under the attributes. We need to identify the attributes, then we need to map the attributes. Next, we need to draw fully attributed ERD, then we have to check the results. Here the different terminologies or different attributes in the ER diagram in the database management system. To draw the different diagrams by using the attributes and by using the entity sets and the entity types. For example, we have an entity. Entity is nothing but the real-time object, a thing in the real world with an independent existence that may be exist logically or that may be exist physically. This is comes under the entity. Maybe an object with a physical existence, for example house or person, this is comes under the entity. Or with a conceptual existence, maybe course, job. For example, if we take the bank account number and IFSC code, ATM pin, these all are comes under the conceptual existence. The next one is the attributes, properties. Attribute is nothing but the that is having the properties, is describes, that is used to describe an entity, is nothing but the attributes. For example, here we will take the person as an example. The person name, age, address and phone number, these all are the attributes for the person. And for example, if we take we have some different types of attributes. The first one is the composite attribute, and the next one is the simple attributes, key attribute, multi-valued attribute and derived attribute. Composite attribute is nothing but it can be divided into further parts to form an individual attributes. For example, name. Name is divided into further, that can be first name, middle name and last name. This is comes under the composite attribute. The next one is the simple attribute, that cannot be divided into further. For example, if we take the weight, that cannot be divided into further, it is comes under the simple attributes. The next one is the single valued attribute and the multi-valued attributes. The single valued attribute is having the single value for the particular entity. For example, if we take the student roll number, that is comes under the single valued attribute. And the multi-valued attributes can have the multiple values, can have set of values for a particular entity. For example, if we take the mobile number, one person can have more than one mobile numbers. And mail IDs, one person can have more than one mail IDs. Here the age is comes under the single valued attributes. The next one is the college degree. Languages. Languages also, one person can know more than one or two languages. and the college degrees may be inter degree, and these are the different degrees of the student. These are comes under the multi-valued attributes. And the next one is the derived attributes and the stored attributes. Derived attribute is nothing but it can be derived from the some other attribute. The next one is the stored attributes, from which the value of other attributes are derived. This is derived attributes and the stored attributes. Age can be derived from the date of birth. We have already discussed that age can be derived from the date of birth. Next, stored attribute also comes under the derived attribute, birth date of a person. The age can be derived from the date of birth. This is the derived attribute and this is the stored attributes. The next one is the complex attributes. Complex attribute is nothing but having the multi-valued and components, composite components in the attribute is nothing but the complex attributes. It is the complex attributes. Another one is we are having the key attribute, and the multi-valued attributes are represented within the quotations. Composite attributes are represented within the single braces. For example, college degrees, maybe college year, degree, fields, these all are comes under the composite and multi-valued attributes. The next one is the, for example, null values. Null value is nothing but we cannot divide value into, we cannot, it cannot be null is nothing but the not null column. Next, I need to show the relation ERD, entity relation diagram for the train management, railway management system. Here I am taking the example for the railway management system. Here I am taking the different entities like station, train, passenger, next one is the status of the train, and the next one is the route. These all are physically existed, and the route is also exist logically. For example, if we take the railway management system, we have different entities. One is the station, is comes under the entity, train, passenger, status of the train, and route. These all are comes under the entities. And the next one, we need to define the attributes. The attributes of the station is station ID. We need to mention the station ID and the station name. These all are the attributes of the station. The next one is the train. Train, we have some different IDs. Train ID. This is attribute for the entity, train entity. Train ID and train name. This is the attributes of the train. The next one is the passenger. Passenger, for the passenger, passenger ID is there and PSN number and passenger name. These all are the attributes of the passenger. Then we need to draw the diagram, entity relationship diagram for the railway management system. Here I am taking the entities. Entities are, first one is the station. I am taking the entity as a station. The next one is the train. train is another entity in the railway management system entity relation diagram. And the third one is the passenger. And also I have another entity like status of the train. Status of the train. The next one is the route. Route is also one entity of the railway management system. Here we have different attributes of the station. The first one is the station ID. We need to mention the station ID compulsory. Based on this only we need to identify the stations. Here the station ID is the key attribute. The next one is the station name. Every station has a different name. The next one is the train. The different types of attributes in a is train ID. This is also a primary key. Primary key is nothing but the key attribute. The next one is the train name. And here passenger also they have different PSN numbers, passenger number. Here the attributes of the passenger are passenger ID. While booking the ticket, they may get different passenger IDs. Next, the passenger name. This is also one attribute. And sometimes they mention the age. Age is a derived attribute. And passenger have mobile number. Mobile number comes under the multi-valued attributes. In the station, next we have to know the status of the train. By status of the train, which is how many seats are available. This is the checking of the status of the train. Available seats. We need to check the available seats. And we need to check filled seats. Already booked seats. These all are the different attributes of the status of the train. The next one is the route. Route is having the arrival time. At what time it is going to arrive to the station. Arrival time. Route has different attributes. Arrival time. And the next one is the departure time. We have mentioned the entities and the attributes for the railway management system. Here the entities are station, train, passenger, status of the train and route. The attributes of the train is, the attributes of the entities are for the station is station ID and station name. For the train, train ID and train name. For the passenger, the different attributes of the passenger are passenger ID, passenger name, age and mobile number. The next one is the status of the train. How many available seats are there and how many seats are booked. This is showing the relations. The next one is the relationships. Here we need to define the relationships. Here train arrives the station. Here arrives is the relationship. Here passenger books the ticket. This is another relation. And train has a status. This is also another relation. And station has a route. This is another relation. So these all are the entities, attributes and relationships. Thank you.